One Zambia, one nation. Good evening and welcome to the main news at 18 hours on ZNBC TV2 with me, Mutukwa Moya. Here are the headlines. President Edgar Lungu says the country has enough maize stocks. Police in Lusaka have apprehended the alleged buyer of stolen plasma television sets, which are on demand allegedly for their components which have mercury. Plus, 191 schools in Lusaka province remain closed as they have failed to meet hygiene benchmarks. Thank you so much for joining us, and now the news in detail. President Edgar Lungu says the country has enough maize stocks, not only with the Food Reserve Agency FRA, but also in private hands. President Lungu says he is aware that private sectors has maize in stocks, but however does not see why the market do not have the commodity. He has said government will not be forced to release maize on the market from the Food Reserve Agency when the country still has maize in stock that has not been availed on the market. And President Lungu says the Ministry of Agriculture and the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU, are carrying out a forecast to determine which areas have been greatly affected by the dry spell. President Lungu said this in Chisamba district today when he met 7 traditional leaders from Central Province. The traditional leaders who met President Lungu are Chiefs Mukuni Ngombe, Chitanda, Mokuwe, Liteta, Ngawe, Kanyensha, and Chamuka. The head of state was responding to a concern raised by the chiefs that the hunger in the chiefdoms is looming following the dry spell. And President Lungu says government is committed to working on the feeder roads in the chiefdoms. He has disclosed that the World Bank has set funds for the construction of the feeder roads in various parts of the country. And speaking on behalf of the traditional leaders, Chief Chamuka said the chiefdoms are faced with various challenges which cut across lack of transport and teacher PP ratio is low. Meanwhile, Minister of Energy David Mabumba says the rain's dry spell is a threat to national power generation. However, it will not have a huge impact if the situation changes in the next 2 months. Mr. Mabumba also says ZESCO is currently carrying out a power projection to see how much electricity can be generated this year. Speaking in an interview with ZNBC News, the minister also says his ministry will in the next 2 weeks update the nation on the findings from ZESCO and other independent power producers in the country. Meanwhile, Mr. Mabumba says the upgrading of Musonda Falls hydropower station in Mwense district, Luapula province, from 5 to 10 megawatts has been complete.
Maybe in the next 2 weeks, we would be updating the Zambia people in terms of our power projection, both from ZESCO as well as from the independent power producers. And if there would be any shortages, how we intend to mitigate that process. But so far, I don't foresee that there will be a huge impact. That's my layman estimation, because if we can have some rains in February and March, then for sure it is going to cover up, the bad weather pattern that we have had in December and January. Because if you look at the northern part of Zambia, even in terms of the indication that I have so far, it's raining quite heavily. Yeah, both in the northwestern province, in Luapula, and in the northern province. But it's just the southern part and part of central province where we're having these challenges. So we don't think that we are largely going to have a huge impact like we had in 2015.
3 water tanks that feed Kitwe Teaching Hospital on the Copper Belt are on the verge of collapsing, and management is now calling for an urgent overhaul of the entire system. The 5 tanks erected on the 4th floor of the hospital in 1956 have developed cracks, while others are leaking with water seeping through the walls and pipes of the 4-story building. More in this report.
A disaster is waiting to happen here, and these tanks will be the cause. They are at the heart of the water reticulation system at Kitwe Teaching Hospital. Erected in 1956, these 5 tanks are pitched on the last floor of the hospital. When the hospital was being constructed, the contractor had to run water pipes in the walls of this 4-story building. It is now 60 years down the line and these tanks are still standing, but this may not be for long. Time has taken its toll on this strategic piece of infrastructure, highly critical to the operations of this hospital. These water tanks have cracks while others are on the verge of collapsing.
The reticulation system within the hospital is odd. So we've got 5 tanks. They are very big metallic tanks, and they've seen the test of time. Now they've worn out. What we see is that any time they can actually burst.
But this is not the only problem. The water pipes running through the walls of the hospital are another danger.
The reticulation system within the hospital is odd. And if you remember, I think just a few days ago, the Honorable Minister, Honorable Chiteme, came to the hospital where he cited that there was wastage of the water and also that the tanks needed replacement. I think with the inflow, normally what we do is when we get water in the morning and in the evening, we've got an underground pump and a tank. When it's full in the morning, we pump water up to the overhead tanks, water which would be used throughout the day. Management here is worried. For the replacement of the tanks, we did a BOQ with the provincial buildings engineer. I think we even went as far as Lusaka to see what we would need to get. And I think from the estimates, I think one tank would cost something around 700,000. So that's what we are looking at. We may not replace the all 5 tanks at once, but if we keep replacing the worst affected tank, I think that will help in the end.
All that management is asking for is a complete overhaul of the entire water reticulation system, which is critical to the operations of this institution. Lillian Kalaba, ZNBC News, Kitwe.
Take our first break, and still coming up in the news, Zam President Njoya Tembo's wife, Brenda, jailed for 5 years. This and other stories, keep watching. We continue with the news. Zambia Association of Musicians, ZAM President Njoya Tembo's wife, Brenda, has been jailed for 5 years. Lusaka Magistrate Greenwell Malumani has sent to jail Ms. Tembo for brutalizing her 13-year-old niece using a cooking stick. In this matter, the convict was further accused of assaulting the victim using a pressing iron. Speaking when he delivered the judgment, Magistrate Malumani has said the habit of abusing orphans should come to an end, as every child is entitled to protection regardless of their status. He has also noted that it is sad that Ms. Tembo savagely attacked a defenseless child, therefore the decision to send her to jail. Police in Lusaka have apprehended the alleged buyer of stolen plasma television sets, which are on demand, allegedly for their components which have mercury. The mercury in the television sets is being used to manufacture gaming machines known as bonanzas. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo has confirmed the arrest of the suspect, who was picked from Atero Township. Here's a report by Lucky Piri.
It has become one of the home appliances targeted by some criminals. Plasma television sets are on demand by criminals who are reselling them to unknown people for their components. It is alleged that the buyers are interested in the components which have mercury. The mercury is believed to be used in the production of gaming machines, commonly known as bonanza. Some residents in Lusaka's Matero compound have confirmed their houses having been broken into and the plasma television sets stolen.
Yes, we report that they got some guys, but they were caught. They took them to the police. Yeah, they saw some materials, or even some television, or some properties in the house. Yeah, televisions, plenty of materials.
This house was on Wednesday broken into and a plasma television set taken away. I spoke to neighbors who were not comfortable to be on camera.
Ninao kwa kuchecking abana kupeza door ili open, TV plasma actually palibe kulanga na panja nona Corolla cruiser yaenda ibe na number plate. And on several incidents bambiri bamasta chani kubama kambati Corolla ndiye mapezeka ili pa chanish pa scene. So stizi yapela why wama using a Corolla libe chani license, number plate ndiye anayavuta chabe kuno. So munga hapa pa nyumba ya yero hapa Banachoko babera, it should be kucha kwa yesterday. And then mama sarapo wana bika watadiba wa mama chokapo.
Meanwhile, police spokesperson Esther Katongo has confirmed having apprehended one of the alleged buyers of these television sets.
There has been a spate of criminals who are stealing plasma televisions. Initially, there were rumors to say that these criminals, when they steal these plasmas, they would go and sell to some people who would get a component from the same plasma televisions. But now, after we had an operation that was in Matero, our officers in Matero, they managed to apprehend one person who is a buyer of these plasma televisions, and we are still looking for more because we have information to say that there are more people who are involved.
Police have since started investigations on the matter. Lucky Piri, TV2 News, Lusaka.
191 schools in Lusaka province remain closed as they have failed to meet hygiene benchmarks given by the Ministry of Health. The respective schools, especially those in cholera-affected areas, did not resume in the delayed reopening of learning institutions for the 2018 academic calendar due to the disease outbreak. Kabembe Kasabula reports.
There is every evidence that this school is non-operational. One can even hear a pin drop noise in this classroom. The shutdown of the school is for obvious reasons, the cholera outbreak, and it is among over 191 others which have remained closed in Lusaka province for failing to meet stipulated hygiene standards.
We have a total number of 191 schools that have not opened, and these schools are from the different categories of schools, of course. There are the private schools, we've got community schools, we've got GRZ schools, that is government schools, and then we've also got grant-aided schools. Schools in epic centers, that is in areas where the cholera epidemic is very is rampant, should not open. So these numbers that I've given you are schools that are in epic centers as well as those schools that have failed to meet the benchmarks.
However, uncertainty of when these schools will open is becoming a public concern.
In Kadama schools, I mean, Vavala, Kunokinango, opening, among anyone on a pass. Tizanga Maninga affected this time, Manawati Miranda, when schools or Pamandia, Manjapa Kuriches in Shinchan Chitika, not was a sali. So, Banganepo government, Universal must take orders, but take off first to 1 hour salary, Kunazat, where their head already.
However, the Ministry of General Education says they will not interfere with the procedures required for the affected schools to open. There is, however, advice for those schools that will lose out on time due to the delayed opening.
The instruction that was given was to ensure that at least we try as much as possible to catch up, and also to make sure that during the holidays, at least we try to buy time from the holiday time to try and beef up the lost time that we've had as a ministry. So,
in Lusaka district, 182 schools remain closed, while Chilanga district has 5 and Chongwe district has 4 schools. Kabembe Kasabula, TV2 News in Lusaka.
Stay tuned for more news after this set of commercials. We continue the TV2 main news. 34 police housing units under construction in Lusaka's Kanyama compound are expected to be handed over to government in April this year. The police houses are part of the 2,350 being constructed throughout the country by Avic International for officers in the security institutions. Here's a report by Penlopse Kazwe.
Metal bars hold up the tinted rooftops while tiles lace the surface of the bathrooms. The new housing units for police officers in Kanyama are taking shape, and so is the assurance that housing challenges in the police service will find a spot in the books of history. Touring the site in her constituency, Area Member of Parliament Elizabeth Thiri and other community leaders marveled at the generous size of them. Avic International, the contractor, is confident of meeting the set deadline in April, and the Area Member of Parliament seems pleased with this.
I am so grateful to also the company that is constructing these houses. Other Perhaps they would have taken years to reach where they have reached, but you can see their work is solid, it's perfect, there is no wood used, it's all steel, and this is what we are looking for. And the project is running at its speed.
I've had a cordial relationship, working relationship with our mom, the Member of Parliament, and through all the projects, especially the projects that are within my ward, we have worked together. And so my being here means that the project will mean a lot to the people of Kanyama Ward 10. Especially that this is the main station of Kanyama constituency, but it is centrally located in my ward.
With workmen working against a tight deadline, over 35% of works are complete.
We are likely to hand over to the government this project on only this side you have seen the percentage of work we are at 36%.
The housing units will fall under phase 1 of the government contract with AVIC, endorsing an agreement for the construction of 2,350 housing units countrywide. Sikazwe, TV2 News, Lusaka.
Coming up after this break is sports news. Keep watching. The rest of the news in sports. The Zambia Amateur Athletics Association, ZA, says it will hold a one-day all corners meet tournament to assess athletes that will represent the country at the 2018 Commonwealth Games. The tournament, which will be held on February 10, 2018 in Ndola on the Copper Belt, will attract athletes from across the country. And speaking to ZNBC Sports in an interview, ZA national team coach Douglas Kalembo says the tournament will be used to gauge athletes and fill the remaining slots for the Commonwealth Games. Coach Kalembo says Zambia has been given 4 slots at the Commonwealth Games that will take place from 4th to 15th of April in Australia. Kalembo says of the 4, 2 are already occupied by athletes Sydney Siame and Kavange Mupopo, while the remaining will be occupied by the best performing athletes at the All Corners meeting in Ndola. The coach further says he is optimistic that the athletes that will qualify for the Commonwealth Games will reap medals and wave the country's flag high. We've come to the end of the main news for 18 hours here on ZNBC TV2, the pulse of television. But before we go, here's a recap of our headlines. President Edgar Lungu says the country has enough maize stocks, not only with the Food Reserve Agency, but also in private hands. President Lungu says he is aware that private sectors has maize in stocks, but however does not see why the market do not have the commodity. Police in Lusaka have apprehended the alleged buyer of stolen plasma television sets, which are on demand allegedly for their components which have mercury. The mercury in the television sets is being used to manufacture gaming machines known as bonanzas. Plus 191 schools in Lusaka province remain closed as they have failed to meet hygiene benchmarks given by the Ministry of Health. The respective schools, especially those in cholera-affected areas, did not resume operations in the delayed reopening of learning institutions for the 2018 academic calendar due to the disease outbreak. Thank you so much for your time. Join us for another detailed bulletin at 20 hours. This is Mutukwa Moya. Good evening.